I'm going to ask you some questions, and some of them may be a little personal, and I'll apologize in advance. How do you feel today?
I feel a little weak.
Now, have you ever been involved in a lawsuit before?
No, ma'am.
Okay, never sued anybody before?
No, ma'am.
Good morning, girls. I'm going to talk to you this morning about the way you look. Now, I've heard it said that we women attach too much importance to our appearance. But that isn't true. After all, the way we look exerts so much influence on the way we feel and on the way other people feel about us that it really is very important. As a French chef might say, it's the little touch of seasoning that makes the dish just right.
One of the biggest cosmetic brands, designer cosmetic brands in the world, their ex-formulator had contacted us. He said, quote unquote, "The cosmetic industry is destroying women's cells." C-E-L-L-S, cells. And I said to him, why don't you say something? He said, I can't.
This cosmetics issue is even bigger than the tobacco industry because we're talking about thousands of different chemicals.
The same chemicals being dumped and running through the rivers that are toxic are running through our blood.
For some of these chemicals, millions of children will be harmed before we actually decide whether it's toxic or not.
Skincare, hair, feminine care products have been associated with reproductive problems. Ovarian cancer, preterm birth, mercury poisoning, endocrine disruption.
The cosmetics industry comes back with their own science, and they say, oh, just a little bit of a cancer-causing chemical.
You have no way of knowing what's in your product.
Wealthy, big corporations don't allow regulations to happen, who allow people to be harmed.
In cosmetics used by women in this country every day, 125 ingredients suspected of causing cancer, and the list goes on and on and on.
Chemicals are not like people. They're not innocent until they're proven guilty.
Unless we do bring these chemicals under better control, we are certainly headed for disaster.
We don't want to wait 60 years to find out that some chemical we use in hand lotion is causing breast cancer.
In '99, I started going overseas as a NATO peacekeeper. Places like Qatar, Kosovo, Kuwait, and Afghanistan. Working with the military and going into war zones, worked my way into intel. I was put to work in a detention cell, which is really the jail for the war criminals. I was called a counterintelligence screener. Interviewing and giving polygraphs. Evidence, war crime evidence. Looking for bad people, helping the country stabilize. Everybody used to call me Superwoman. I'm sorry, did I lose track of even the question? It's just flew through my head right now.
My name is Mimi. I'm 24, and I'm from California.
Basic 1.
It's kind of funny. Actually, as a little girl, I was always very girly. My mom just likes to dress me up. You're a girl, you should look pretty. People are gonna judge you for how you look. I looked up to my mom. I thought she was really pretty. Well, that's because I think my dad's really ugly. Beauty is ingrained to our relationship. And it was always creams, always like different moisturizers, sunscreens, and I always grew up learning, you need to put these on your face to prevent wrinkles, anti-aging, have lighter skin. There's a huge thing about having lighter skin. Don't go in the sun, you'll get too tan. Make sure you put sunscreen on so you can have nice skin and people will like you more. When I was younger, early 90s, most of the people on TV were white female celebrities. That maybe has skewed people's perception of what beauty should be like. And I was just never completely satisfied with how I look. Why don't I have cheekbones? Why do I feel like my nose is too short? Or why are my eyes so small and not shaped a certain way?
In a true blonde, have more fun. If I've only one life, let me live it as a blonde.
So I don't think I actively thought, I want to look like this white woman, so I'm gonna dye my hair blonde. I love makeup. I love personal care products. I've never even called them personal care products. You know, it's just like, oh, lotions or sunscreen. It's kind of just things that you grow up being conditioned to thinking that you need, that it makes us more attractive.
I was never really sick for about 55 years of my life. I'd had a bad fall. I went to the doctor for, I thought it was my ribs. They said there's nothing wrong with the ribs. It was already stage 4. I was officially diagnosed in May 2014, ovarian cancer. Told in March that I had no more than 6 months.
I had started having problems with spotting, intermittent, between my periods. I was 49 years old. I knew I was probably not too far from menopause, but it still didn't seem quite right. Hi. I went and saw the gynecology surgeon. He was sitting at his desk with a pathology report. Being a healthcare professional, I just took one look down and I could see bilateral carcinoma. This can't be right. And the doctor said, I didn't expect this. I'm really sorry. Total hysterectomy and chemotherapy. I pulled out all my textbooks, starting to look up, how do you treat ovarian cancer? What did I do wrong?
Had surgery December 2014. Removed everything, the omentum, the ovaries, the fallopian tubes.
My belly started growing, and it was the most uncomfortable feeling. It got to a stage where I couldn't bend.
I went to a hormone specialist, and he said, uh-oh, I said, what does that O mean? He says, are you feeling okay? I said, I feel fine. There's no warning with ovarian cancer.
When you do get the symptoms, it's too late. When they find it, it had spread everywhere. It's like it's the end of the world, you know?
The doctor put in a needle right through the skin under my abdomen. Greenish liquid poured out of me into 6 1-liter bottles.
The only thing came to my mind is I'm never gonna reach 50.
And that's how it started.
You're gonna have chemo, which my heart fell to the ground.
My normal life stopped that day.
In the handouts the doctor had given me, there was a book from the Gildner-Radner Association. And in the back of the book, there was different causation factors. And I was reading through them and I said, well, I had children, so that's not a factor. There's no cancer in my family. At that time, I wasn't obese or overweight. I had never used birth control pills. I kept reading and I said, talcum powder. What? Talcum powder?
Ever since I was a little girl, Johnson's baby powder has made me feel soft, fresh, and loved.
Johnson's baby powder keeps anybody's baby smooth and fresh.
Picked up the talcum powder, baby powder, shower to shower, looked over the labels, and there was nothing even stated on the bottles at all that there was any risk of cancer. That's what I'd been using since I was about 16 years old, and never thought that there would be any danger in it.
I used Johnson baby powder and my mom. The women in the house were baby powder ladies.
My mother used it on me as a child and as a baby. It was a nice smell. It made me feel fresh. It made me feel good. I felt clean.
I was using Johnson & Johnson shower to shower and baby powder as a deodorant.
I was putting it in my bed before I would go to bed because I liked the smell of baby powder. Yeah.
And I had no idea that there was something in the product that could be harmful.
How long have you used body powders?
All of my life. Because you want to be fresh, and we ladies have to take care of ourselves.
And what type of baby powder would you use?
Johnson & Johnson.
I think having makeup is just like an extra layer of security. If I was going to an interview, I would want that extra layer just to know that I don't have to worry about my flaws showing. Even though maybe other people wouldn't see it, there are just things that I would notice about myself and would make me more self-conscious. I think overall, makeup just boosts people's confidence. I really think that makeup has been ingrained so much into our culture. If you're in a group of friends, then everybody put on all their products and you're the only one who didn't put on anything. It's kind of awkward to be the odd one out. face routine. So you said primer. You said moisturizer, primer, and foundation.
Oh, I use this one too. I went to an all-girls high school, so I think this topic was actually pretty common at my school. So when I do see like advertisements for certain things, like I just see they use females and
like sexualizing females on commercials.
Cosmetic campaigns, like they will take some very influential person that a lot of girls look up to, and they use that person to advertise for whatever product. I think this person is beautiful and they're using this product, I'm gonna use this product as well. We shouldn't be telling girls to stop using products. We should be telling the government and regulators and companies to stop creating toxic products.
I'm going to be starting medical school in the fall at Boston University. I wanted to work with Dr. Mahalingaya because she is a reproductive endocrinologist.
It's great to be here today.
A lot of Dr. Mahalingaya's work is on environmental exposures and reproductive disorders.
Today's talk is going to go over trends in human fertility. We'll spend a little time on definitions because that's really important as you're thinking about study design.
I look to her as a mentor. In the past, she's looked at environmental toxins or exposures on the prenatal period.
One of my concerns is stemming from the interconnectedness of our environmental exposures. Could we be exposing our gametes, the egg and the sperm, or our embryos to potential toxicants throughout the life course? Remember when I wanted to throw that out, Avera? Why do you want to keep it? What color do you like the most?
I like a lot of them. I like the natural ones that aren't, they have like natural colors for your face, but.
Oh, can you show me the natural colors?
They're just like, they're like colors, the skin colors, but.
Oh. So I've weeded out a tremendous amount, but this is what's left of my makeup. This is supposed to make your skin look bright. And I also think that's probably an estrogen type effect on healthy growing skin. That in addition to other personal care products, the volatile organic compounds that are off-gassing from nail polish. Once populations have been exposed and discovery has been made about the associations, we've already lost a generation to that exposure, which might be subtle effects at the level of infertility.
If you want here.
It might be more devastating effects in other aspects of development. I think we should be concerned.
I didn't start using products until college. That's when I started having this benign tumor. I have small breasts already, so on me, the tumor was really apparent. My physicians would tell me, oh, it's something that just happened.
Yeah.
Oh, it just happened? I'm unlucky.
Yeah.
But maybe it wasn't because of luck. It was something I used,
Physiological.
So I finally got the tumor removed, but it grew so large that now I have a really big scar. And the more I talk about it, it seems like other girls are saying, oh my gosh, I have this too.
Oh, I feel a lump, and I'm just like, we're in our 20s, like, it shouldn't be happening, like, you know.
What is it? Or like, what is this caused by?
In terms of our fertility, when a compound has an endocrine-like activity or is an endocrine disruptor, any substance that is synthetic that can act like an endocrine hormone. So the endocrine system has multiple different hormones. Thyroid hormone that comes from the thyroid. Estrogen and testosterone are well-known sex steroid hormones.
That action, that hormone interference can happen on many different biological levels. And we are finding that many of the synthetic chemicals in personal care products can indeed interfere with hormone action.
In the words of Jean Rostand, the obligation to endure gives us the right to know.
We have an innocent until proven guilty approach to these chemicals where we put them into use and then we find out later that they're risky, sometimes very risky. We do know that some of the chemicals in everyday products are estrogen mimics, or they can distort androgens or affect thyroid. Chemicals like phthalates, that's affecting your hormone signaling system.
We're trying to figure out if some endocrine disruptor can promote breast cancer or induce breast cancer or have an effect on the mammary gland development.
A lot of cream like that you're gonna put on your skin have paraben. In some of the makeup, you're gonna find some paraben and or some phthalates. So there are a lot of products that are using those molecules.
We think all the hormone disruptors are going to be relevant to all the hormonal cancers. So that includes prostate, testicular, ovarian, endometrial, and to reproduction and growth. So this is not just a women's problem.
The industrial processes that make some of the additives in something as benign as makeup are the same kinds of processes that are involved in chemical warfare and biological weapons. So it's not like this is a very light topic that it's just like, oh, makeup and let's look beautiful.
I'm learning that all of these toxins can cause reproductive harm and effects on menopause and earlier age in menopause. And I'm 24 years old and I know that I want to have children later on, but going into a career in medicine, that's going to be delayed. And I hope that using these products won't affect my decision to have kids.
How often do you sprinkle it in your panties?
Every day. My mother, my sister, and I. And I never would have dreamed or thought that the powder could cause any kind of harm to anyone.
No, there's no warning label on talc regarding risks of ovarian cancer. I had surely expected a warning label would be placed on talc products after the International Agency for Research on Cancer declared talc to be a possible carcinogen. But even then, no warning labels appeared, and that's what's prompted me to get involved in this litigation issue. In medical school, I was very much interested in obstetrics and gynecology as a specialty. But I always had the intent to go on to get a degree in epidemiology. And when it came time to choose a thesis, that is, epidemiologic study of some disease or another, I chose ovarian cancer.
Dan is the guy who I consider to be kind of the grandfather, one of the grandfathers of epidemiology, which is my field. In epidemiology, I call us detective people. He was one of the people who published way back in the early 1980s, one of the first papers to link talc and ovarian cancer.
Without him, I really wonder if this ever would have been brought out at all. That he'd been fighting it and showing evidence of it for a long time.
There had been some suspicion about talc and ovarian cancer, but had not been studied in any sort of systematic way. Well, first I should explain that we decided we would do a case control study. We would interview women who've recently been diagnosed with ovarian cancer. And we would ask them, a year before your cancer was diagnosed, what habits did you have? And we asked about the talc use. And there was clearly an excess of women who used powders after bathing or showering in their genital area. That translates into an increased risk for ovarian cancer. Talc is a mine product, magnesium silicates. And it occurs more frequently than not in veins with other magnesium silicates, which can include asbestos. The majority of women were actually using Johnson & Johnson, but there's nothing unique about Johnson & Johnson in terms of the talc. Talc is talc. Oh, here it is. Johnson & Johnson liability. And then here's all the plaintiffs and who they're represented by.
The last 2 years of a different chemo drug, feeling the tumors stick out through your skin. I mean, if you put a few fingers here, you could see underneath. It's like an iceberg effect. Most of it is underneath, and now the tips are sticking out. It's days at a time where you can't even just drink water without vomiting. When I was overseas on military bases, I used the regular Johnson & Johnson baby powder and shower to shower.
Where's everybody going?
Shower to shower each day, I'll keep odor away.
I used it on the genital area and underarms and in shoes. I loved the scent, for one thing. Made you feel a little more confident. It's just a frustration that is on a level that, I don't know, it just paralyzes you. That level of frustration to know you did this to yourself, but I know it's not. Logically, I know it's not my fault. What it boils down to, it's destroying lives. When it comes down to it. That's exactly what's happening. Lives are being destroyed.
Sir, that's my baby. No, sir, don't mean maybe. She's probably never heard of Lenin. Her unsuspecting countrymen have given her the vote. Yes, sir, that's my baby now.
So this is called the American Chamber of Horrors, and it talks about the dangers of the cosmetic industry back in 1936. And it's crazy because nothing has changed, or very little has changed since then.
In the laboratory, a scientist tests an eyelash beautifier which only recently came on the market. He finds that this cosmetic contains a coal tar dye. This explains why women who use this stuff are having the outer coatings of their eyeballs burned off and are becoming blind.
the way we regulate personal care products in this country hasn't changed since the 1930s.
President Roosevelt has endorsed a bill which should be front-page news to every consumer in America. Its purpose is to protect you as a consumer from the many dangerous and fraudulent foods, drugs, and cosmetics still to be found on the market.
I don't think it's possible to imagine a worse regulated family of products than cosmetics, which is surprising given how intimately we use these products.
The FDA works very hard on drugs, on medical devices, perhaps a little less well on food. Protecting people from dangerous materials in cosmetics is not even in the back seat. It's not even in the car.
Your expert said when a consumer asks, is this product safe? Your expert said, I cannot say.
I don't believe in saying that everything is just fine, everything is always safe. Everything is relative.
In some cases, if the advertising is inaccurate for things like cosmetics, deodorants, and hair tonics and so forth, people might use the product in ways that could injure their health.
Inaccurate? Aren't they actually lying? When you find a girl whose hair feels like hair, she probably uses ozone fluid net, the hairspray that leaves hair feeling like hair. It's the hairdresser's hairspray in the pink and gray can.
This industry, which anytime you walk into a store in this country, is virtually asserting that they can rebuild people with new cells and all kinds of other very bold claims.
The $84 billion domestic cosmetics industry is regulated currently by about a page and a half of federal law. Really impressive, important, influential members of Congress have tried. Ron Wyden from Oregon, Ted Kennedy tried, and every time they've introduced legislation that would require stricter regulation of the industry has fought it back and has said, we will do a better job of regulating ourselves.
Would it concern you to know that young women are using estrogen in hair products, conceivably to straighten their hair, and that may, in fact, have an impact?
Without question, we would want to know that, sir.
Well, it's in public domain. It seems to me the FDA is putting its faith in an industry to self-police through a panel called the Cosmetic Ingredient Review. Surprise, surprise, the industry funded the panel of scientists, and they've reviewed only 11% of the more than 10,000 ingredients contained in cosmetics.
I'd like to be able to put myself out of a job. That means that we're protecting kids, and we're not having to use them to determine whether this chemical or that chemical is toxic, which is not, of course, what industry wants us to do. They'd just rather continue to use a product without any regulation whatsoever.
What we're seeing now is there's a whole industry, the product defense industry, which is made up of for-profit corporations that are run by scientists who are consultants, and some of these supposed think tanks. I mean, it's ludicrous. The Indoor Tanning Association is out there questioning the science around ultraviolet radiation and skin cancer. Something I've seen is that this manufacture of uncertainty and trying to show there are two sides to every issue around science degrades all scientists. It makes it look like scientists are just part of a debating society and they're like lawyers, but science isn't like that. Science is the search for the truth. But hiring people to say something specific, not because it's the truth, but because it defends a product or defends a corporation, really does make it hard for all scientists.
But the more unethical part of what we do is use these chemicals before they've been tested for safety. Did anybody ever ask you to sign a consent form for using these products because they didn't know if it was safe? Of course not.
Labels do not disclose what's in perfume, aroma, fragrance, or flavor. Those catch-all terms can conceal a range of potentially hazardous chemicals. The world operates with what's called a post-market regulatory system. That means that the product is put onto the market first. It's not like you have to test the product first, make sure it's safe, and then it goes on the market. No, it goes on the market, and then if there are incidents, that's when the regulatory system kicks in. Nobody's testing to see if that eyeshadow has in it what it says it has in it.
Let me ask you first, I'd like to just go down the row, whether each of you believes that nicotine is not addictive.
Congressman, cigarettes and nicotine clearly do not meet the classic definitions of addiction.
I think the best available science points to this cosmetics issue as being even bigger than the tobacco industry, because we're talking about thousands of different chemicals, most of which haven't been adequately safety tested. There are really two pressing pollution crises at the moment. One gets a lot of media, and that's climate change, and deservedly so. I often wonder why this second pollution crisis, this crisis of toxic chemicals in the products that we use every day, why doesn't this second pollution crisis get more attention?
I met with Dr. Rick Smith. He is an environmentalist, and he's also done an experiment and wrote a book about it called Slow Death by Rubber Duck. I'm starting medical school in the fall at Boston University, and the lab—
That's great.
Thank you.
That's great.
The lab that I was working in the past year, a lot of our work is owed to your book and self-experimentation with toxins and seeing the effects on your own body.
So are you going to be doing an experiment on yourself?
I'm doing an experiment on myself.
You okay?
I am.
All right, very good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's terrible, but that's, yeah, I mean, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, so I'm gonna get back to baseline where I'll use no products, take off all my makeup, stop using soap, and then put on all the mainstream products. And take the urine test afterwards to see my levels of phthalates and parabens.
So all of our experiments mimic daily life.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of experiments with cosmetics. We've looked at whether you can increase the level of phthalates in your body, the level of parabens in your body, just by using certain products.
Right.
Our bodies are pretty good at getting rid of them on a regular basis.
Yeah.
We all have relatively high, relatively constant levels of these chemicals in our bodies all the time.
Yeah.
Which means that we're being constantly re-exposed.
Yeah.
So we're kind of marinating ourselves unwittingly in these chemicals.
We wrote a commentary to talk about a phenomenon that we call the environmental injustice of beauty. It's really trying to frame this problem of disproportionate chemical exposures among women of color. We further go on to talk about how each of these categories of product use, whether it's skincare, hair, feminine care products, vaginal douches, and feminine sprays and feminine wipes. Use of baby powder in the genital areas. We also see differences in skincare products. Skin lighteners are being used by women across the globe. There are cases in the medical literature of mercury poisoning from skincare products. This preference for Eurocentric beauty norms can have really long-lasting effects on body image.
I'm going to start off this evening by talking about personal care products and about breast cancer. Breast cancer is not a new disease. It was there in ancient Egypt. It was recorded in ancient Greece. But the rate of increase in breast cancer is absolutely unprecedented. So this is where we actually grow the cells, the human breast cancer cells. You can have a look under the microscope at whether they're growing and whether they're growing more with parabens than without parabens. I've tested all of them individually and in combination, and they can make human breast cancer cells grow and may be able to mimic estrogen action in breast cells. In 2004, we upset the world by showing that parabens could even get into the human breast. We then did a bigger study in 2012 in which we found paraben in 158 out of 160 samples. And furthermore, we didn't find one paraben, we found 5 parabens in 60% of those samples. Parabens are added to many products to preserve them. Body care products and skin care products that you can buy on the supermarket shelf. I'm actually quite upset by how much I've measured in human breast tissue.
One common adage that's that the dose makes the poison. That is not so straightforward with endocrine disruptors because sometimes you can have different effects at lower levels, sometimes more severe effects than you can at higher levels. In utero exposures are most often linked with some of the most severe effects that we've seen to date, as well as effects early in childhood.
Children's bodies work differently. They're smaller, they metabolize things differently than we do. And their bodies are developing still. So when they're exposed to these endocrine disrupting chemicals in our personal care products, that has implications for that child's future health. What we know is that the children who start their periods younger are at increased risk of obesity, cardiovascular disease, diabetes. And so we really believe that childhood could be a sensitive window of time by which these exposures might be particularly deleterious.
Little girls like to look pretty, but some of mother's good-smelling cosmetics might be poisonous. Even simple things like perfume or nail polish can make you ill.
Toxins can have a lifelong impact on children. We've also discovered that extremely low levels of toxins can impact brain development. Joel Bakken, who's a lawyer at UBC and a friend, he's written a couple books. One was called The Corporation. And he was interviewing me about how different environmental chemicals impact children, going through this litany. And after about 5 or 10 minutes, he says, wait a minute, stop. You do this for a living, right? I said, yes. You have kids? Yes. Can you protect your own children? No way. There's too many.
I've been studying the impact of personal care products and also pesticides on children's brain development. A lot of chemicals out there are neurotoxins. For instance, lead exposure is associated with ADHD, so attention deficit hyperactive disorder, which is not quite prevalent in the population. It's not only chemicals, like man-made chemicals, there's also natural elements, natural substances like essential oils, for instance, are a big one. An example is lavender oil.
It's being used in a lot of products, and it's actually a pretty powerful endocrine disruptor. There's been case studies published of boys growing breasts because of use of creams or lotions or oil that were applied to their bodies.
Baby boys are very, very susceptible to exposure to estrogenic compounds. Exposure either prior to birth or just after birth can have profound effects on hormonal control of reproduction in men.
These companies are telling you, yeah, it's gentle, it's safe, and then you learn 10 years down the line, oh my God, I'm infertile. Why am I infertile? Or, oh my God, I have cancer. Where did this come from? My family doesn't have cancer, no history of cancer. There are questions that should be raised, and we need to find answers.
And has your cancer affected your relationship with your family or your friends?
Yes, ma'am. They're scared they're gonna lose me. But I'm not giving up.
My name's Alan Smith, and I'm a trial attorney here in Mississippi. I saw a blog post from a lady named Dean Berg that said, I have suffered ovarian cancer. I have no risk factors other than I am a lifelong genital talc user that I learned from my mother. And I responded immediately, I've been looking at this issue for 4 or 5 years, and I will be more than happy to speak with you. So that's how we started.
Hi, we're looking for John Sloan. Sure, one sec.
I'm looking forward to speaking to the Canadian women because I want them too to have hope that they can fight this, that they can live with it, and that we're in this together.
Hi, I'm John. Nice to meet you, Dean. Thanks for coming. We're the ones that actually speak with the public.
I always called her Myriad Brockovich because she was the ultimate whistleblower.
Why didn't this ever come out to the public? Why was there no notice put on baby powder? And why isn't this talked about then? If this is one of the most deadly cancers for women, why isn't this brought out in the public?
Hi, ladies. Hi.
I went on the National Ovarian Cancer Alliance site and I just put on a blog, has anyone else developed ovarian cancer from talcum powder? And then Alan Smith, the lawyer that I ended up getting, contacted me. And he said, I think you'd be the good case because they can't find anything against you. We started the lawsuit, and then Johnson & Johnson, of course, tried to fight it. They tried to get it thrown out for this reason, that reason, everything. But the judge was a woman, thankfully, and she stood behind us and said, no, it's got to go to court.
I first published my study in 1982, and I did not contact Johnson & Johnson. They contacted me. Dr. Bruce Semple, who was the medical director of Johnson & Johnson at the time, wanted to meet with me, came to Boston. I think he spent his time trying to convince me that talc was a harmless habit, and I said, well, maybe you just should consider you may need to put a warning label on it, or you want to put a warning label on it. I was contacted by a little magazine called Cancer Prevention for Primary Care Doctors. I wrote a little article about why you should warn your patients about talc. Well, that caught Dr. Semple's attention again, and he wrote a letter. They encouraged me to limit the amount of public discussion of the topic. I didn't have any further contact with them. I think they kept track of what I was studying and my papers on the topic.
We're talking about a product named baby powder. It's not just talc. It's 99% talc, which is carcinogenic. It has asbestos in it, which is carcinogenic. It has heavy metals in it, which are known carcinogens. And it has silica in it, which is a known carcinogen. So I liken baby powder as a delivery device of multiple carcinogens, exactly like a cigarette.
The senator from Massachusetts.
A technique that has been used to extract ovarian tumor material found talc particles in approximately 75% of ovarian tumors examined. Subsequent evaluations have appeared to support the contention of an association between talc and ovarian carcinoma.
J&J, I consider, as the ultimate villain in this situation, and I want to say clearly why. After we filed a Dingberg suit in South Dakota in federal court, I sent a request for production of documents. My office was stacked with 6-7 feet high of papers all around my office, and I went through every single piece of paper. It was absolutely shocking internal material. I'm talking about decades going back to the 50s, 60s. That they were seeking a replacement for talc in the 60s. And in the same document, they're admitting that talc cannot be safely absorbed in the vagina. And so they're looking for that replacement because of that very reason. They told no one. And then I've seen them go and use their corporate influence to prevent governmental regulation. Not ever in tobacco litigation, in benzene litigation, not in asbestos litigation has there been an email or a letter memorializing a conspiracy to this scale. They're going out and having side meetings with certain officials at the FDA to prevent the FDA from regulating their product. If that is not the definition of a villain, I don't know what is.
With so much information available about everything we come in contact with, some true and some not, it can be hard to know what to pay attention to these days. All of us at Johnson & Johnson deeply sympathize with the women and families impacted by this devastating disease. At the same time, we are guided by the science, which supports the safety of Johnson's baby powder.
Talc causes ovarian cancer. Johnson & Johnson has known about this for decades, and they refuse to do anything about that.
So they put me through the deposition, and then we met out in Rapid City, the western part of South Dakota, and they said, well, we'll offer you $800,000. And I said, well, what about the warning label? I thought this was all part of it. There was going to be a warning label, or the product would be taken off the market. No, none of that. And then I'd have to be silent, right. I went out for a walk with my husband at the time, and I said, you know, we didn't do this for money. I said, what about all the other women that are out there? And if I just take money, what good is this going to do? It isn't. So we went back in, and they said, okay, 1.3 million. And I said, no. I stood up, I said, I'll see you in court in September, and walked out of the room.
So Silent Spring was founded over 20 years ago by breast cancer activists. We were founded as an institute to try to study the links between the environment and women's health. Test people themselves, really trying to characterize our exposures, try to develop effective strategies to try to reduce those exposures.
Hi there. Hi, Mimi. I'm Alex. That's great.
Hi, Mimi.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too.
So thanks for coming to Silent Spring, and I'm excited to tell you about our study.
Yes.
Have a seat.
Okay.
Basically, I wanted to look at the chemical body burden difference between using my normal everyday products versus clean products. So I actually just recently started looking at the ingredients in my shampoos and deodorants. Deodorants are a big one. I keep mentioning it, but because I just use it so often, and there's aluminum in talc, which I have read in studies that can cause breast cancer, ovarian cancer. So if that's in my deodorant, then what else am I using and unknowingly causing harm? What do you think is so key to knowing our chemical body burning?
The key here is that we're concerned about exposures during certain time periods in people's lives, right? So when a woman is pregnant, we're worried about the exposure that might happen in the fetus, right? We're concerned about early life exposures to children, because that can affect their development. But also women whom then might be a childbearing age. Here. You can take a urine sample and then put it back into the kit and freeze it. And then once you've frozen it, you can then send it back to us in this shipper, and we pull them all together, and then we send them off to the lab for the chemical analysis.
Yeah, no, it looks pretty self-explanatory too. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. See you later.
Bye. So it's day 1 of my experiment. I'm supposed to be doing a detox day, so no products at all. I just took a shower with no shampoo, no conditioner, no soap. It was the weirdest thing ever. Because I'm not using any toothpaste. That's gonna smell. I can't use deodorant either, and it's 80 degrees outside, so I gotta remember to stay at least like 20 feet away from everyone. So I felt really dirty all the time. No, I can't use soap, can't wash my hands. And people would try to talk to me, and I would just look really awkward because I'd back away from people. But detox for 24 hours, no use of any products. And then after the detox period, use your normal products. I never thought about the volume of the products that I was using. Eyebrows, lipstick, shampoo, conditioner, shaving. I lost count when I was using them, but I think upwards of 27 products. I'm actually going to look at every single label on every product that I've used. Just make a full spreadsheet of which products have what, and then create categories on which ingredients show up most often. If I do show a really high level of chemicals, I don't know, parabens, phthalates, I really want to look into what disruptions does this cause in my endocrine or reproductive system. If I can find enough data, if I can pull enough data to show that these chemicals are very harmful, then I would take it even further and really tell the public, hey, this is what we're doing to our bodies and we need to stop.
The stories we're hearing about today, about chemical pollution, about toxic plastic waste, about rising rates of cancer, aren't just problems that are happening out here that somebody needs to deal with, but they're as close to us as the choices we're making every single day about the lotions that we put on our faces and the bubbles that we put in the bathtub with our children.
So we started the cosmetics campaign out of a concern about a particular chemical called phthalates, which is linked through a long body of research to reproductive birth defects and particularly impacts on the male reproductive system. We found out in the early 2000s, through the Centers for Disease Control, they started to analyze urine of thousands of Americans. Everyone is being exposed to phthalates, but they found much higher levels in women of childbearing age 20 to 40. The researchers that I worked with had a theory it could be cosmetics. So we sent 72 products to a lab, this was in 2002, and found phthalates in most of them, 2/3 of the products. And we reported that at a press conference. We actually had a full-page ad in the New York Times. The headline was, "Sexy for her, for baby, it really could be poison." This was a bomb in the cosmetics industry. Nobody had been asking here in the United States about toxic chemicals in cosmetics.
Last week, I got to spend a day on Capitol Hill with a very brave little girl named Eliana. Eliana lost all of her hair, even her eyelashes. You can add pretty much anything to personal care in any amount, and sometimes, as we saw with a popular shampoo sold by a celebrity hairstylist, tens of thousands of women and girls lost some or all of their hair, some permanently.
And I was just very, very, very shocked and disappointed that this company that makes so much money off of this product cannot be responsible for what they've done. And it's sorry. My family has just seen the worst. My hair falling out, and my husband, I had to make a difficult decision for him to go ahead and shave my hair off. Sorry.
I would say it was a pretty horrific experience. There's a product called Just for Men. It's their product that's used for beards.
Just for Men hair and beard care. Be the better man you are.
By the time I got to bed that night around 10:30, the mild itchiness had progressed to an unbelievable itchiness. He made the decision immediately, we've got to go over to Emerge.
There are certainly acute risks, short-term risks from using personal care, whether it's hair loss or burns or contaminated products or products with too much lead or mercury. But there are also chronic or long-term risks that have been linked to cancer or infertility.
Some chemical are really not good for some people's skin, but others is okay. Some chemical is more strong for reproductive health. We have many sisters who work in the nail salon. They had problems about miscarriages.
Ahorita estamos volteados hacia acá porque tenemos nuestras espaldas contra ellos.
It has on it, if you use this toluene, it's really harmful for reproductive health issues, which one we use every day, like 10 or 20 times.
It's hard to imagine that there are rules that limit what chemicals we can spray on food or on crops, but not the chemicals we spray on ourselves every day.
So a large part of my job as a formulator was to constantly do reformulations. Once a certain dye was thought to be even potentially have toxicities, they wouldn't wait for it to become a regulatory matter. They would be proactive in reformulation. I see bath products and shampoos and 3-in-1s and a lot of bath type of products for kids, which I have 2 nephews and a niece that I love very much. When I see their mother soaking them in this product every night for hours on end, it does concern me because they're not just taking a quick shower and washing it off, they're soaking in it and playing in it. All women who wear any kind of deodorant or moisturizer is gonna have parabens in their system for the last 50 years. But then the marketing department got a hold of this and thought we're going to be the first product that has no parabens, so then they substitute it with another preservative, methyl isochloroisozolinone, and now it's proven to be toxic.
I never set out to be a makeup artist. I was traveling all over the world. I've lived in Paris, London, Berlin, Hamburg, New York, Miami, all doing makeup. I did a lot of Victoria's Secret, and my big thing about that was these foundations, the chemicals I'm using on the girl's skin. These girls are like 18, 19 years old. They're flawless. And in my 30s,
I started feeling really, really sick. I had problems with a lot of the makeup because it was burning my skin. When I'd do full body makeup on the girls and I'd take it off with the makeup white, my arms literally would break out into a rash. And so I went and had really advanced blood work, urine analysis, and hair analysis. And when I picked that up from the lab, they said to me, "Do you work in the cosmetic industry?" And I was completely in shock. And I said, "How do you know that?" And they said, "Because we see a lot of these chemicals in cosmetics and also people that do hair." So I started studying all this. I got so involved in that, people were saying, "Oh my God, if you put this out, you'll never work again in the industry." But surprisingly enough, it catapulted me to a higher level because I was a makeup artist, had something to say.
It all started 17, 18 years ago, back when my wife and I, Karen, started planning a family. You always think about your kids, your future kids, and at that time, while Karen's a biochemist, was actually working in pesticides. Myself, a microbiologist, I was working in pharmaceuticals. You know, sometimes it's a little bit of pesticides that you're ingesting. It's a little bit of the chemical floor cleaner that you're smelling. It's a little bit of the cream that you're putting on, or that, you know, an antiperspirant with chemical whatever, you know. I just thought, you know what, I got it. So I quit, and I decided to do this full time.
Bonjour, bonjour, je vais vous jaser un peu avec vous.
I'm starting to feel like it's turning around, that it won't be long. Actually, there'll be more people using natural products than there are using chemicals. What I found out was that these companies that now were promoting and were being very proud to tell you that they care about you, that they weren't using parabens anymore, actually went back to a preservative that was actually very popular back in like the 1950s called formaldehyde. So they were using formaldehyde, but they weren't naming it formaldehyde on the product. Formaldehyde is a fantastic preservative. I mean, it kills everything, right? So companies developed these slow-release formulations of formaldehyde. And as such, they were able to give it a new name. So they can change the name so they can dupe you so that you won't know that it's formaldehyde in the products. And that kind of stuff does happen. This is real life, and it's still happening today, unfortunately.
What kind of stuff do you currently use?
Okay, so I do the whole thing. I do the moisturizers. I got Neutrogena, a primer, face full coverage foundation, any concealers, like a setting spray.
Yeah.
I use anything with eyes, face, lips.
So it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you like.
I found different clean products for every single item that I had.
Like slightly more pink. White.
And then I put on my clean products.
Which I think is great, because if you're gonna bother.
And then do another urine sample of the clean products. Hey, it's Mimi. I wanted to give you the other chemical body burden test kit. I can find a way to drop it off with you later. Okay, bye. Talk to you soon.
Today we begin with a possible health risk involving one of the most trusted products, baby powder.
Dean Berg is one of the more than 20,000 women in the U.S. who are diagnosed with ovarian cancer each year.
Alan tells me the story that the lawyer for the defense said, "You got about a 1 in a million chance of winning this."
One person versus a humongous pharmaceutical company.
They became the first to file a talc lawsuit against Johnson & Johnson and its talc supplier.
It was truly David versus Goliath. They had 20 or 30 lawyers on their side, and it was me.
The science, as the FDA sees it, simply does not merit such a warning at this time.
And they just keep coming back at us with, oh my gosh, more and more crack legal teams. They are really swift.
The FDA also did say, though, the growing body of evidence to support a possible association between genital talc exposure and serious ovarian cancer is difficult to dismiss.
God bless them.
So it went to court in September, and that was probably one of the hardest weeks I ever had.
The truth, as we will show you over the next 3 weeks or so,
is that Johnson's baby powder, which has been sold to millions of people around the world for over 100 years, are absolutely safe, do not cause ovarian cancer. There have been no studies saying that it does.
They put up big poster boards of women's internal organs. And they talked about sperm going up the vagina. And then it was how talcum powder couldn't do this because, you know, how could it ever get up inside of a woman?
I don't think women need a lesson about the anatomy, but just as a sperm can track up and just as the egg fertilized can track down, it's pretty easy for a particle like talc to track through the genital area.
And they had slides of my ovarian tissue with purple spots where there was talcum all through it. Johnson & Johnson had doctors that testified against me. One doctor even laughed. She's lucky to be alive.
You are in fact going to learn in this case that the hard science studies actually show that talc kills cancerous cells and leaves normal cells alone.
Finally, the jury came back in, and the Johnson & Johnson lawyers are sitting there smiling ear to ear with their notebooks all open, and they said, guilty. The whole courtroom went silent. And then they said, and reward to the plaintiff, 0. I've never heard of a case where a person has been found guilty in a civil lawsuit, and then the plaintiff gets awarded nothing. There were some men on the jury that I think didn't believe a lot of it, and then the women that were there on the jury made a deal with them to give a guilty plea, but then no rewards.
Forget the money, because it was never about the money to Miss Berg. Otherwise, she would have settled her case. What was very important and what was of ultimate importance to her was the public seeing the verdict that 12 jurors unanimously said in her home state of South Dakota that Johnson & Johnson should have placed a warning on their product about ovarian cancer, and that her genital use of that product contributed to cause her ovarian cancer.
I believe that part of the reason that Johnson & Johnson now is fighting this so hard is there are thousands of women around the country who have joined in class action suits, both here and Canada. I still remember my first case. Her last name is Fox.
What do you hope to gain from this lawsuit? To put out there about ovarian cancer. Just want to do right. Just take a break. Okay.
She actually died fairly shortly before the trial.
This is a big girl. You a big girl? You gonna teach me how? All right. You made it.
You counting?
What was the surgery for? My colon, my spleen, and cutting my intestines for hysterectomy. Those are the ones that I remember.
In a landmark decision, a St. Louis jury ruled that Johnson & Johnson must pay $72 million, including $62 million in punitive damages, to the family of an Alabama woman who died from ovarian cancer.
Her whole fight was for not just for her, but so many other women.
Verdicts started to come out of the United States. There was a $72 million verdict against Johnson & Johnson in relation to a woman who had developed ovarian cancer. We've been approached by victims, women, who used Johnson & Johnson baby powder over a long period of time. And these women had developed ovarian cancer. I know it takes a lot of courage to come forward and to kind of talk about what's happened to you. And so we really appreciate you being here and sharing this.
And as you said, Dean, it's embarrassing to tell your story sometimes. And one, for judgment of others, and two, because you think, oh no, I did something wrong to myself. I don't want any more people to have to go through what we've just talked about. I don't want anybody to have the option to buy that on the shelf today.
Hello, Sheeta. Hi, welcome.
Thank
Good to see you. Please grab a seat. But here we have this situation where had J&J simply warned of this risk, none of these people potentially would have had ovarian cancer.
Stand strong. You know, just look them face to face and don't shed a tear. And they will try to make you look weak, that you're just complaining that this really wasn't as bad as it appeared to be. And if we stand together as women, we can do this.
Yeah, she could do this. What's that? What I'll do after I go back to the States is I'll try to nice meeting you. Nice meeting you too. And thank you for your story. Oh, thank you for all your support and being a pioneer.
You're welcome.
Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for coming.
I feel good as a woman, as a whistleblower. I open this up to the public to try to help prevent other women from getting ovarian cancer and suffering the way I did and other women have. I know I didn't get any money for it, but as I said to my husband, I have my life. I'm still alive 11 years later after having ovarian cancer, and no money can be awarded for that.
This is not a helpful habit. It is a harmful one, and you should not use these products. It will get into the pelvic cavity. It may cause problems, and in some cases, it will cause ovarian cancer.
Historically, men run these large corporations, and here we are promoting, as men, this product to women to use and for families to use.
Now, as chairman and CEO of this company, I take this personally and very seriously, and I know that many of you do too. Now, I want to repeat, reiterate, and reinforce. J&J's baby powder is safe and does not cause cancer. Studies of tens of thousands of women and thousands of men show that talc does not cause cancer or asbestos-related disease. J&J's baby powder has never contained asbestos. Regulators have tested both, and they have always found our talc to be asbestos-free. Now, at the end of the day, this is about truth and integrity. We are confident in the safety of Johnson's baby powder, and we stand behind our products.
They are putting blinders on to all the devastation and disease that they're causing for the benefit of protecting a corporate image of a mother and baby and a product that started the company. And to me, that is the ultimate sin.
How many more women will be impacted? Well, millions. While this drags on for 10 years more, and J&J will keep it in the courts as long as they possibly can.
A few months ago, my doctor said no more than 6 months. I was told in around March or April, and here we are, July. I have such a love for children. I wonder if this was the reason why I couldn't have any as well. My nephew, Aiden, he's the love of my life. Would have liked to see him grow up a little more. The thing that hit me very profoundly was that I started having days recently where the only thing I was looking forward to is taking a strong sleeping pill and just sleeping at night, because that would be the only time that I'm not hurting and not in pain. So what's the purpose of living if all you're looking forward to is going to sleep in the evening? What's the point if you're not able to function, not able to serve, not able to do anything? I live on faith. The name of my street is Faith.
We have to remember that children born today are exposed to these chemicals from birth, perhaps even before birth. Now, what is going to happen to them in adult life as a result of that exposure? We simply don't know. Unless we do bring these chemicals under better control, we are certainly headed for disaster.
It's so good to see you.
Yes, very good to see you.
Thanks for coming again. So how are you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. Yeah, it's been a good summer.
Good.
Yeah.
You've been busy?
Yeah,
Good.
but gotta go back to school.
Yeah.
I was just looking at this. Who's Rachel Carson?
Rachel Carson was really one of the first female environmentalists. She wrote this book in 1962. It came out, called Silent Spring. And that's how we're named. She was really calling attention to the impact of chemicals, particularly in the ecosystems. But as part of that, she was testifying before Congress.
There has been too little to warn the consumer that he is buying and using a very hazardous substance. So many people write me, and so many people telephone me and say, well, I had no idea that this stuff that I was using was dangerous in any way.
The time she was testifying, she was actually battling breast cancer. And so here's a woman who actually was affected by breast cancer and an environmentalist, and so that's why we're named in her honor.
Amazing.
Yeah, she's an inspiration. Yeah, so we have your results. I think this is a great opportunity to kind of walk through them.
Okay.
Ask any questions. We have the day 1 morning, day 1 evening. So that's your first day of regular product use. Then we have day 2 morning and day 2 evening. That's the alternative product use. So you can see here, right, if this is the 95th percentile of most of the national level, you are above the 95th percent. So you have higher levels than most Americans in at least 3 of your samples here. Your samples, actually, all 4 of them had higher levels of MEP, which is a monoethyl phthalate, which is one of the phthalates that's typically used in personal care products. Now, these are, I'm going to just show you kind of the phthalates that we looked at. So you can see the skewness, how quickly you can jump up. You go from the morning sample to boom to the evening sample.
Yeah. This was me putting on normally what I would put on to go out.
There was another day, right, where you avoided parabens and phthalates for a couple days, but then kind of used different products or alternative products, right? It's not as much so, right? And in fact, the levels kind of go down. I think it's probably just almost like noise. These are probably kind of equivalent.
This is good because this is the alternative products. So all the clean products are
So
clean.
you were able to find them, to be clean.
Yeah.
That's great. That's good news.
My MEP levels were higher than 95% of Americans, though, which is scary to me because I don't know what that means for my body. I don't know if it's already done damage. I don't know if I could reverse this damage. Where do I go from here? Fertility is my concern. Cancer is my concern. And it scares me.
Well, it's nearly time for your next class, so I must stop talking. But there's one more thing that I'd like to say. You will be prettier. You will be more popular. Good grooming will pay dividends to each and every one of you.
Let's try to change these beauty norms so that women don't have to choose between their health and trying to look beautiful according to these arbitrary standards.
This whole experiment, the prospects of it, I think it will definitely cascade into something a lot larger than just one person doing a chemical body burden.
Normal response is about 65%. It's very common, perhaps because they...
Maybe by me speaking out, there will be a change.
Michael, no. Mimi Nguyen. Philomena Wanze. Abigail Olson. Arti Polani.
The current idea of beauty is socialized. And I don't want people to feel a lack of self-confidence or lowered self-esteem just because they don't look like someone they see on TV. I don't think it's wrong to dye your hair and feel beautiful. It's not wrong that people use makeup. They just need a safer alternative to makeup.
We're gonna take pictures
I should be confident knowing that I look this way, but I'm not harming myself.
3, 2. Oh, that's a nice one. That's a good one.
It's like, through this journey of mine too, I never felt 100% happy with who I was. And I think that is because I was so distracted with how I look, and I was just worried about what people said about me or like what my image was like. Find beauty in what makes you stronger. Find beauty in what you worked really hard for. I'm a hardworking woman. I can't be influential, and this doesn't have anything to do with how I look. And if we could spark the conversation, spark the revolution against these toxins, just taking back the power that we should be having already.
Today marks our subcommittee's first hearing. Today our focus is on a group of widely used personal care consumer products that contain potentially carcinogenic products. Please rise. I will begin by swearing you in.
Since 2009, cosmetics manufacturers themselves have reported using 88 chemicals linked to cancer, birth defects, or reproductive harm in both men and women.
In both of your opinion, is there any doubt in your mind baby powder that was sold by Johnson & Johnson has a connection to cancer?
I believe that talcum powder products do cause ovarian cancer.
But would common sense tell you that when you're putting something on your skin that there's the potential over time to have something bad happen?
Most consumers assume that FDA has actually reviewed these products for safety before we put them on our bodies every day. At least 2,000 products contain talc that are available for sale today, of which more than 1,000 are loose powders or pressed powders. It only takes one fiber lodged in the lung to contribute to mesothelioma decades later.
But I just don't know how the consumers can have any true trust and faith here that they are safe in the consumption of these products.
I wouldn't wait another day to require a warning on all these products.
Corporate greed is a type of cancer in our democracy right now. I can't wait for this legislation to pass for people to stop dying. Thank you so much.